Hi, everyone, and welcome to our very first, the inaugural Storyblok Partner webinar series. So I'm Barry, I'm the VP of Partners here at Storyblok, and I'm joined by two guests who will introduce themselves in a moment. But just before we get started, I just want to introduce the Partner webinar series. We'll be coming to you now with a webinar every month where we're going to talk about topics connected to our multiple partner channels. So we work here at Storyblok with many agencies globally. We also work with many technology partners, two of which we're joined by today. And every month we'll be bringing you something new and relevant in the world of partner and having a really joyful discussion around these topics. So as we get started today, I'd first like to introduce our guests, Jamie and Mikael. Jamie, you might like to introduce yourself quickly first.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Jamie, and I'm one of the founders of Deity, our new logo. You might have seen it.
Very
Uh,
nice.
I'm very excited to be here. We are partner of Storyblok and of Big Commerce. We did a case together, and I'm really, really excited today to be part of this very first partner webinar.
Thank you, Jamie. You're very welcome. And Mikael.
Hello, my name is Michael or Michael. I'm from Big Commerce. I have also a logo here.
Oh, sticker.
Thanks for the inspiration, Jamie. I'm the country lead for the DACH region and started in January in order to build the business for Big Commerce in the DACH region. And I have around 10 years of a different e-commerce experience in personalization, but also in print-on-demand businesses. And I'm very happy to be part of this webinar today, Barry. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Mikael. I also have some Storyblok brand, my coffee mug from earlier. It's empty, unfortunately, but I guess we're all, and yeah, Mikael also has a Storyblok mug. We'll have to make sure we ship them out to all attendees. So I'm not sure if you've got one yet, Jamie, but we'll get one over to you too, so you can have it for the next time. Anyway, let's jump in, guys. So we've got a couple of really interesting questions, and I can see we've got quite a few live joiners too. So do feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll likely keep them till the end, and we'll go through any questions that people might have then. So as this is a partner-related webinar and discussion topic around that channel, I'd like to ask you both, like, how has 2022 been? Reflecting back on 2022, and how has partnership as a channel impacted both of your businesses? And maybe Jamie, you'd like to go first.
Yeah, sure. So partnerships is obviously the key to grow. We are in the composable commerce world, and our role in composable commerce, which I explain a little bit more about later, is that we are the middle, the middleman, the middle software which connects all the other softwares. So for us, key is partnerships, because if we don't have any partners, our software doesn't make any sense, right? So it does make sense, but then you have to build everything yourself, which doesn't make sense. It's really great to partner with teams like you. It's also been during the, as you say, 2022, that's post pandemic, that where we see, hey, everybody's looking out, reaching out, trying to reconnect again. So this is a really fun part about these partnerships besides the business growth that we see.
Yeah, no, that's really nice to hear. And I guess the foundation of our partner with you guys was actually we met and synced at a couple of events around Europe as we got back to that. So that's a really nice part of it for sure, and one to highlight. And what about you, Mikael?
Yeah, for us, partnerships are also essential, an essential part of the business. Of course, because we are following also the best of breed approach, right? The headless and the composable approach, but also in terms of the business itself. Yeah, so the e-commerce ecosystem is somebody would say it sounds big, but actually it's a small world, right? It's pretty well connected, and many people know each other. And it's so important to have strong partners also to get external confirmation when somebody's asking about a technology, for example. Hey, do you guys know them? Have you been working with them? What do you think about them, etc.? And we see also in terms of the business and the numbers actually in sales that every deal where partners are involved, or a deal where partners are involved, are much more likely to close actually than, let's say, self-source deals, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess we're all super happy here at Storyblok as well to be connected with you and the rest of our partners. Just to add to that, I think how we all kind of get together to talk about and add to the value of these topics is really important for us as a group. And another question for you, Mikael, if I may. Big Commerce is obviously very much focused on e-commerce. How do you currently consider the state of e-commerce in general as we approach the end of 2022?
Yeah. overall, like e-commerce has been, of course, in the news a lot, yeah, during the pandemic and also this year, yeah, and there has been huge growth and maybe much more growth than anybody would expect, right? In terms of e-commerce this year, yeah, let's say when the pandemic is coming maybe to a little bit of a normal level, yeah, and we try to live with it. There's still, of course, huge potential in e-commerce, and there's still some growth. Yeah. So I would say the e-commerce itself and the e-commerce growth is here to stay, even if it slowed down, of course, a lot this year when you compare it actually to last year, right?
Okay.
And that's actually the challenge, also, of course, for the merchants out there. Yeah. So how can I maintain that growth? How can I meet the expectation of my customers? Yeah. And what do I need to do actually to keep them?
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. And do you feel like obviously everything got exaggerated by the pandemic, and we'll talk about that a little more with some of our further questions, but do you feel that people are sometimes looking again back to the offline purchase, or are they focused on, and I guess we're always trying to create better digital experiences for them? Oh, and you have a visitor. Visitors are always welcome. Hello.
That's what I said. That's what I said. I'm sorry. I just had over my phone and then he's gone. And education.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think many people were pretty happy to go back to the stores again, right? In the very beginning. And you could see that also by the numbers. But the overall challenge, of course, is now to connect these both worlds, right? To have or to deliver a good customer experience online and offline, and connect these both worlds, yeah, in order to give the best possible customer experience and service also to the people, yeah. And maybe for some, it's very hard also to deliver a great service and customer experience online. Yeah, for the others, it's harder to do it offline, etc. And there are different challenges out there. But what I can see, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
What I can see, what I can see is of course that the offline purchases, yeah, or the barrier in order to get these people back to the stores again on a sustainable level, yeah, not just because they missed it for a year or something, yeah, is pretty high, yeah, and you can see that also pretty well by yourself, for example, yeah. So when I'm checking out something, and for example for my bike, yeah, and I have a lot of bike stores around my apartment, yeah, I try to give them, let's say, a chance, yeah, in order to convince me. But oftentimes I see, okay, the service is not the best. It actually takes longer for them to maybe get a part that I need, yeah, instead of having ordered it online and getting it within 2 days, yeah. So these are in my opinion, of course, the
super interesting. And I guess connecting offline to online is a real key to that as we grow into next year. And maybe that's one of the trends. And to focus maybe more on market trends and adoption, maybe a question for you, Jamie. So do you find that maybe sometimes businesses haven't caught up with the latest trends when it comes to adoption of this type of technology? For example, are there still brands that you're talking to that are struggling to cope with the demand of big key events like Black Friday, Christmas, seasonal activities?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not only talking to them, I'm also unfortunately using them. When I try to order sometimes, there's so many websites still out there, not only not ready for the big events, but are also just not ready in general. Like I recently got an email from a shop saying, some web shop, I don't even know what, and I was a newsletter subscriber, and they said, hey, our shop is not going to be available for the next X days because we're doing some maintenance. I'm like, what? You can do, we're trying to, there's shops out there who are doing, for example, when you work with our platform, we can do rolling updates, so there's no downtime at all. And then there is who are fighting to keep the downtime like under, let's say, 2-3 minutes. And then there are shops who are sending out emails that they're going to be down for 3 days. It just doesn't make sense. Like there's
when is there a good time to do that? Never, right?
There's never a good time to do that. And then, and not even talking about the Black Friday and everything, and even the big platforms. We all know the stories from the big stores, who you think should have everything in order, who going down during this massive events. Like, it's insane. I think that there's so much delay, there's so much lack and history there that should be resolved. I definitely think there is a huge gap to be filled for many brands, big and small.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And a follow-up to that would be like, we all kind of are a part of this movement, and the fact that there still are brands that are online and they maybe don't know that downtime, for example, can be totally avoided with this modern technology stack and approach. How can we go about educating those people better? How can we go to those people in the market and tell them that these challenges don't need to happen?
Well, I think a big part of that is definitely education, and I think the education starts with understanding what is out there. And, we're in the world of composable, and as this webinar is about composable commerce, we always approach composable commerce from 3 points of view. One of them is that what we build is a foundation for flexibility, so that people, merchants, brands can build what they want and what they need. But flexibility is kind of, for many people, abstract and vague, because they do think like, hey, when I download, let's say, BigCommerce, I can use plugins, so I'm flexible too. But there's much more flexibility to composable commerce than that. You can really integrate existing systems with new systems. And the second thing that I always talk about when we talk about composable commerce, that it's really a change of perspective. You need to look at your business and about your approach from a different point of view, rather than picking a platform, seeing what they have and which plugins you can use, and compromising on things that you don't really like, or that then just take the compromise there. It's really a change of perspective. Instead of platform first, you're going to have your business or your customer first, and from there you're going to build a platform. So from there you're going to build whatever you need. So you're going to pick the right tools and put them together. And then the third one I think is a very important one for many of these brands who are afraid, who are like, I've been building this for 6 years and I don't want to, start all over, is that we say composable commerce is an evolution and it's not a revolution. So it's not a full replatform, big bang at once, where you have to build everything and go with that stack. What we do is we can connect to your current stack, and then with this triangular pattern, make sure that all the services go out. So then, we start with the most important thing. What is the most important? For some is that performance, for others that is personalization. We want more space in our marketing. For others is that I need a different e-commerce engine. So we connect with what you already have, because there's something good in that. You've been doing business, you've been growing that for, let's say, 6-10 years maybe. There's something really, really good in that, and we're going to keep that engine. We're going to keep that thing that is good for you, and we're going to replace the parts that is not. And we can do that during time as an evolution, another revolution. So 3 things I like to educate people on: foundation for flexibility, it's a change of perspectives, and it's an evolution, another revolution.
Yeah, no, Jamie and I, we've talked about these 3 points before, and I love the topic of evolution rather than revolution. And connected to that is, let's get rid of the kind of requirement to redo your digital presence every 3 years or so, right? And just have it constantly evolve and grow as meeting, as you pointed out at the start, evolving towards what the customer wants rather than what you're kind of constrained to technically. And we've kind of naturally pivoted into the topic of how do we start and how do we adopt, how do we encourage the adoption of this new technology? And you've given us a very good description from the composable standpoint there, connected to commerce, Jamie. But Mikhail, maybe more connected to the adoption of headless or API technologies. How do we start that process?
Yeah, so this goes partly also in the same direction, right? As Jamie said, like this change as you go approach, is super important these days in order to adapt quickly to seasonal trends and also to ever changing challenges out there, right? So headless could be one solution, when you're decoupling actually the front end from the back end, in order to work with your team simultaneously, on the front end and on the back end, without having the dependency on each other. And this is in my opinion the key actually in order to have this agile approach, and in order to get one day also maybe to this composable approach, right? So but as Jamie said, it's also maybe a kind of a mindset thing, right? You need to have, of course, the mindset. You need to have also internally a team, which is interested and ready to do these things, and this needs, of course, education.
Yeah, no, very good point. And I guess when we talk about the education part, right, where do we see the entry point? Do we see any trends in terms of where does composable and headless fit? Is it a specific industry sector? Should we do things differently at the beginning in terms of how we educate? Any additional thoughts on that, guys?
So we call this the signals, right? So the from our point of view, that is like the potential user signals. Yeah? So what is a signal a business can give us that we say, okay, this is the right moment to move? That would be, in my opinion, that is, hey, I have issues with my, obviously the obvious one, I have issues with my current stack. I want to do more. My growth is stagnating. I have my marketing team who's not happy, wants to use different tools, that kind of stuff. And I think the best thing, say at the best, to put that all together, is that somebody is telling me no. And when I hear that in a conversation, when somebody says, yes, but I tried to do that, but my developers are saying no, or I tried to do that, but my marketing people are saying no, or I tried to do that, but my technology is not allowing me, this is my signal to say,
Mhm.
move to composable commerce, because then your no's, all your no's will become a yes.
Yeah, no, very good point. And I guess, Mikhail, anything to add to that, maybe from a business perspective? What challenges are businesses coming to you with right now in sales, and you're understanding their requirements? What are the trends there? What's new? How are you kind of getting that entry point to solve their problems?
Mm. And maybe some of these businesses at the moment, they don't think in 5-year steps anymore. Like they don't
Yeah.
plan for 5 years in advance anymore, because they see that a pandemic or a crisis or war or whatever can come in between and can blow anything up. Yeah, also in terms of the supply chain, etc. In order to in terms of getting material to be able to sell something. Right.
Yes.
So the challenges can change from one month to another completely, and that actually creates the room for an adaptable and flexible solution out there, which needs to be able to scale quickly, and this, or the composable and headless approach, can be, of course, one solution for them, and that's, in my opinion, the most important thing. Yes.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
to add something to that, it's not just something from outside that can happen. It's not only a pandemic or business growth. I think many of them forget the most important part, that is obviously your customer, and your customer demands, and the people that are shopping, are the demands are getting so high, and that is because of influences like, for example, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. They're using tools online that are so advanced and so big that they expect this kind of level of interaction and level of personalization. They also expect that with their business. So the online business, the shop, it's not just about shopping, it's about delivering experience, it's about delivering content, having content, telling a story. It's much more experience than it used to be, and that is because of all the influences of TikTok and Snapchat and all this kind of stuff. And I think the public is getting younger. We are getting older, actually. I don't think the people are getting younger. We are getting older, but there's more people shopping online, and they experience a lot of things online, and they want to have that too. So as a brand, if you want to give that experience, you need to have some heavy CMSs involved. You need to have some heavy personalization involved, and you cannot just do that serving from a standard e-commerce engine. You need more than that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And there's a lot more demands coming from the customer now. So it's good that this technology can support that. And it leads me into a nice follow-up question. Like, so we talked in the previous question for you, Jamie, about the internal factors to be considered when adopting this new technology. What about the external factors? So what should a brand look for when they're trying to build their best-in-breed technology stack?
So what they should do externally is call me first. That is
Of course. And then Storyblock, and then BigCommerce.
That's
But what comes
I
after
will
that?
throw you all in, but no, but callers, no, without joking, people should look for is like, first of all, they should really sit down and try to figure out who's the stakeholders within and outside my company. So I have my marketing team, I have my sales team, but also my finance, and these kind of people, like finance and all these other people, who are very important part of the whole e-commerce transactional chain, are many times forget when they are talking about, let's build a new website. when people, traditionally talk about let's build a new web shop, it's a designer and a developer getting involved. And developer sometimes even late. It's just the designer first who says, okay, we're going to make this, I know better, let's make this more nice. And I think you should have everyone involved, and everyone part of that chain can then say, okay, I'm a stakeholder here. This is part of the transaction I take care of. Could be, the part of transactional success is not just buying and I paid. It's a whole chain. That's also delivering and getting back and customer service. And all of them should have a stake in what is the best for us, what is the best for my team to work with, so I can deliver the best experience for the part I'm responsible for the customer. And then you can stitch them all together. And I think that is definitely, again, a change of perspective.
Yeah. No, very interesting answer. I definitely agree with all of that. So many important things to think about, and different levels where education needs to come in. So very well explained, Jamie. Thank you for that. And a question I have for both of you, we're obviously curious on the topic of headless CMS here at Storyblock. And do you guys feel like you face any challenges when you're explaining the topic of headless CMS? And what are those challenges that you're facing when those questions come up? And maybe, Mikael, you could give us your thoughts on that first.
Yeah, so the challenges for some of the clients are, of course, okay, so this is the second technology I would have to learn to use. Yeah, I would have to pay, and I would have to have a contract with, right? So for some people, it adds, or it seems to add, a layer of complexity actually in the project. Yeah, but how much of a challenge is it? Is it really? Yeah, the upside for all of this, if you're using a headless CMS. Yeah. Normally, if you can explain them very well to your clients, normally it should weigh out, of course, the downsides of it, or let's say the downsides, the challenges they were communicating. Yeah. And in terms of, okay, why should I need now a second technology? I need to learn to use. Doesn't it add a little bit of more complexity to the whole e-commerce project, etc. Right? But let's say in most of the cases, of course, the upsides is outweighing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one thing we're trying to educate on. And we've got a few case studies, the three of us together, right, where there's space for all technologies to perform a very integral part. BigCommerce obviously exceptionally good at the commerce element and for content to an extent, but when we need to go that little bit further with storytelling, that's when the use for a CMS can really come in as important. And Jamie, what are your thoughts on when headless CMS comes into the discovery phase, or your customers ask about that topic, or the topic of storytelling, and when there's a requirement for it?
So, we get the headless CMS or composable commerce is always in when we are in, or else we will never be there, right? We'll never be part of the conversation when they do not think about composable or headless. But there's always the discussion that we always have, that there is, let's say I'm with 5 people on the table from that side, and there's always one developer who says, yes, but I can build that myself, or I'm doing this already for 20 years, I can do it myself. And that's definitely not the case. I mean, we've been building this with a team of 40 people now for years. So there's not something, you do by yourself, but I think it's the whole, again, I'm getting a bit boring because I'm repeating myself. It's that change of perspective. It's really thinking about what is best. And as soon as you get that across the table, then the people, the merchant is going to look what is best for me. And then automatically you have the CMS coming up, because there's always the content people and the marketing people who've been dreaming about this better experience for years, who always had to do because they're just the text writers, right? And they can finally now build the experience that they want. And it comes automatically. Once you get that idea across the table, people stop thinking about platform first, start thinking about business and stakeholders and customer first. And then automatically all the chain, all the keys fall in the right spot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that really is truly how we enable the growth of these businesses as they scale with this composable stack. So really interesting thoughts there. I think we could talk about that question in particular for a long time. We'll move the conversation on slightly. We touched on earlier on the topic of the pandemic and what that's meant for e-commerce. I think it's quite obvious the gains that have come from that, with a lot of businesses needing to pivot online. But contradictory to that, is there any challenges that have come from the pandemic, Mikael, in terms of how you're doing business?
Yes, of course. Yeah, and what Jamie already said, like the customer expectations maybe were raising up, especially for online businesses, right? So the attention time span from your customers is very, very low and short. Yeah. So you need actually technologies which can be high performing in terms of speed. Yeah. You need, of course, also good services. Yeah, you're delivering. Yeah, may it be online, may it be offline. Shipping, yeah, the last mile is super, super important when you're checking the reviews actually from online stores. Yeah, many bad reviews are coming because the shipping provider didn't deliver on time or did deliver to another house or whatever, right? So these things are maybe also external factors you cannot directly actually influence, but you can influence with which shipping provider or what shipping options you're actually proposing to your clients, right? And also in terms of other things like supply chain challenges. Yeah. So this is of course something being worse and worse these days also. Yeah, with other crises happening other than the pandemic. Yeah, that you need actually also products or the material to build these products and to sell these products eventually. And also in terms of your own policies, in terms of are you accepting returns? Are you accepting free returns, etc.?
Yeah, no, super interesting to learn. Like, I guess the digitization is an obvious one to go online, right? But there's certain elements that can't, right? Such as shipping, and how that can have a knock-on effect to, in busier times, I guess, customer satisfaction being reduced there. So really interesting learning there for me. And I guess a follow-up to that, Jamie, a similar question. Now that the pandemic challenges maybe have worn off, have the pre-pandemic situations kind of changed or evolved in any way? Or what trends are we seeing there? So what are your thoughts on that, and potentially how can e-commerce brands overcome these challenges?
So I think that, pre-pandemic, people, there's was always been the thing like, okay, offline, is losing, online is gaining. That was always been a little bit the topic. Then obviously the pandemic hit, and then everything, went bad for offline. Everything went online, or most of it, and now we're back to being able to go offline. And you see people who are going, but there's also still a lot of people who feel a little bit hesitant to go. They don't want to, a day fun shopping. Is that what we pre-pandemic we were trying to create offline fun shopping experience, brand experience, and then these things where you can order online in the shop and all that kind of stuff. I think that is really, really gone, or not fully gone, but I think way less, as we don't. I think a lot of people are still hesitant to go to the big streets and and main streets and shop there. So we have to bring that experience, that brand experience, we have to bring online. And people experience brand, I think, much differently than they did pre-pandemic, or even. But I'm not sure if that is only pandemic related, or also world of social that is growing. We experience a brand differently, and we have to bring that experience across to our website, and we discover brands very differently. Before we would walk and there would be, there's a new store opening, and it would be fireworks and people whatever walking around and promotional, and you would experience the brand then. But now we have to experience that in a different way, and influencers and that kind of stuff is one thing, but it's obviously something you need to brief that brand. You need to talk to your audience, personalize with your audience on your website, where you're also trying to sell. So there's a lot of things going on with a very short attention span, as Michael already mentioned, that you're trying to get across. And I think that is a really big challenge, and that's something we can solve by building better experiences. But at least we have the tools today to do that, to build those better experiences.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we really are bridging the gap between online and offline and connecting the two very much together. We see the introduction of AI tools and being able to almost get to the place where you can really try on clothes or test a table in your living room using modern tech. So hopefully we'll see more trends in that direction next year that can further bridge the gap, right? And how our amazing implementation partners and brands are building out these really slick digital experiences. Cool. Another related topic. So we talked a lot about education and how can we give people the resources they need to understand how this can be such a successful approach to take by utilizing this best in breed process. And is there anything that you would recommend in terms of where the listeners today should go, and or the viewers today should go and find resources that can support them maybe in their decision making? And maybe Mikhail, you can answer first.
I mean, like the internet, yeah. Google is a great
Jamie
resource.
said,
right?
call BigCommerce. No, not quite yet.
Call BigCommerce.
Yeah.
No, that I mean, like there's so many good and interesting white papers out there, right? From different kind of technologies, but also from agencies, etc. Right, around that whole topic. So I think the easiest way is, of course, to Google something and to check out what's already available out there, right?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure if there's already like a university course or school course about it. It would be good, yeah. So I know that about e-commerce, some things are like this already existing. I'm not sure if something is existing already about headless and composable. It would be great, right? Yeah. But what I can say, like the easiest and quickest way is, of course, Googling stuff, and I think you will be overwhelmed how many educational white papers and reports, etc. you're finding.
I definitely agree, and we try and do a lot to build out case studies to showcase the work that we do at Storyblock as a headless CMS. But not only that, how do we connect that back to the great work, as I said, that our agency partners do, and also how they're all connected within the ecosystem to our technology partners. We have some case studies out there that are connected between the three of us, but also connected to some of our agency partners. So within this ecosystem, there's some really exciting and great work being done. And we'll continue to try and talk about that and share case studies, white papers, and as much learning content as we can. What about you, Jamie? Anything in terms of the resources or where they could be found? Any thoughts on that from your side?
Yes, definitely. I think a very good one is to get hands-on and look at websites, but look at web shops you like and look at them a little bit differently. Don't look at them just, for the products and trying to find the thing in your right size, but try to look at what the features they have or what they're doing. And a great example of this is the case study that we have together, which is a shop consortium, something that is with BigCommerce, Storyblok, and us, where they really do more than just delivering you a product. There is a full customization engine behind it, so you have to dive a little bit deeper, and then you can see that you can fully 3D render customized products and have that real personalized experience where you can say, okay, I want the shoe with this color and this kind of leather and this blah blah. And I think there's so many great examples that where we don't even see because we're just looking for the product that we're looking for rather than taking a step back and looking at the whole experience that is out there. And I think that is a great resource. Look at other brands. I mean, why not try to, I'm not saying to steal it, but it's better to still to copy something than to make a bad.
To learn from the cool things that people are doing, right? There's obviously a lot of saying it. Traditional approaches to the user experience of commerce, right, online, that you ultimately want the user to be able to find the product that they want and need, okay, and position it to them in the best way possible. But I certainly agree that personalization is a real trend there that I see growing into 2023, and we're partnering with some personalization technologies at Storyblock as well. How can you learn from the habit of the customer and position the right product in front of them with the right information, right? And I think that's, again, maybe one technology we didn't speak about too much today is personalization that connects this composable commerce world quite well too. So thanks for triggering that thought with me too, Jamie. Very interesting. And the very last question from me, but before we go to that, we do welcome any questions from the audience, as came up on screen a moment ago. So feel free to type your question into the chat, and we'll come to any of those if there are any at the end. But the last question is a bit more of a fun question, okay? So let's imagine that all online stores were closed tomorrow and we had a chance for a total reboot. What information or advice would you give to a brand in starting from scratch? Mikkel?
Don't use lock-in technologies. Let's say, right? Because you need to stay flexible these days, and there is no good reason at the moment actually to use lock-in technologies where you cannot change and cannot be flexible for the next 10 years, let's say, right? And where the technical debt will be so high that you're not considering actually to change in the future. So I would say that's my first advice.
Yeah, no, super advice. I definitely double that opinion, or I agree with that opinion. I think, the topic of the event, to be truly composable, you need to be able to plug in and plug out the things that you need and that work for you and to help you evolve towards your growth. Cool, thanks for that one. And Jamie, anything to add to that from your side?
Well, if Adidas, Apple, and Disney and Nike and all the big brands are listening, call me if that happens. If your store is going down, just
Yeah.
call me. We're gonna fix it. No, but without joking, I do think that when you redo, when you have to redo, or when you're gonna redo, don't build a store that you're gonna need today for your audience today. Build one that you're gonna need in 5 years. At least build the foundation that you're gonna need for that, and that starts with having a good architecture. Dive a little bit deeper. Don't just put up. You don't put it when you buy a lot of ground and where you're gonna build a house. You're not gonna put up a tent and then add things to the tent, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna sit down with an architect. You're gonna make a plan. You're gonna try to figure out if you in the future want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. If your dog is gonna move in, if your grandma's gonna move in, that is
Yeah.
what you're doing with the house. Do that with your business as well. Try to figure out what you're gonna need and try to build for that. At least have the option to add as soon as you get to that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally agree with that too. And I guess it's planning for what will be there in the future, right? And the composable approach really lends itself to that. For example, we talked about personalization a moment ago. You could start with less technologies with a goal to maybe personalize in 2 years, or a goal to be flexible to localize or translate into a new market. And this best in breed approach allows you to do that quite quickly without having to re-platform. So I think that's a really nice way to tie everything together with my final question. So thanks for your inputs, guys. We do have one question from the chat, and we'll go to that. That's from Selena. So what are the main e-commerce trends in 2023 to watch out for? Jamie, would you like to take that first?
Yes. So there's two things. I think there is one from the technology side, which again I think is composable commerce, not just the trend. I think that will be the next standard there. And then obviously we have some trends, and I think that has all to do with experience. I think personalization is going to be much, much, much bigger. There's also personalization that we do not know about. Like I heard once a case study from McDonald's. When you would drive into the McDrive, it would recognize your license plate, and then it would show the menu with the items that you usually order. Really, really interesting kind of technology. So that is a personalization that you don't even know, because you just see the menu there appearing, but your things are on top. And I think this is great. It's a bit scary, and luckily
Yeah.
this don't happen in Europe because we're not allowed to do that with license plates, but it does happen online. And so we want, on one hand it's scary, but on the other hand it's perfect. Like Meta is doing it for years already. We're seeing personalized ad popping up, and we're even, we don't even notice anymore. We're just seeing like relevant ads for us just showing up, and we're just so used to that. And I think that is going to be a very, very big trend. Really, really personalized data is finally going to be used as it should be used, and used to advantage of the shopper, but also the better experience for the buyer.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And like, I guess sometimes personalization can get a bad name in terms of just being purely advertised to based on your search history. But I think if we connect it correctly to supporting the user experience, right, to helping that person find what they want quicker, then it can be truly powerful and really meaningful in terms of just improving that customer experience.
Yes. For example, if you buy, I recently bought clothes, and I normally know my size, and then I bought clothes, and there was like a shop, and I bought different things, and they had different brands, and I bought the same size on all the different clothes that I bought, and one fitted perfectly, one was too small, the other one was too big. Like, so that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
They should have, because they know what is my, what I usually buy, and they should then, I think, adjust and say, okay, this brand is a little bit smaller, so buy a size bigger, and this one is a bit bigger, buy a size smaller. I think that is a kind of personalization which would make it perfect, which would also reduce the returns and the transactional, all the kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And we often have that data contained within the journey somewhere, but just maybe behind a click, and you're not presenting that data, right? So there might be sizing tables, for example, in the example you gave us, but it doesn't actually ring true at the cart, and that can eliminate challenges further down the process in terms of shipping and returns, and eliminating all of that process too. So that's a really good connection to that too. Anything to add to that, Mikkel, in terms of learnings, or what you see as being the next big thing for 2023?
Yes, so I agree with all that Jamie said, of course, right? These are very important trends in the market. Overall, still, right, it's around since a long time, but mobile commerce, right, has still huge growth rates. So I think not every online shop is yet adapted to it, right? So there's still much potential to be tapped into, and it can still be done in a better way, I would say. And also when it comes to a little bit to a more concrete example, what I think is it can also be a good trend for next year is, depending, of course, on the vertical you are in. So maybe, for example, in beauty, that live shopping is also a big thing, which is coming up. Yeah, that influencers, for example, or people well known in the industry are holding live sessions like we are doing here now, right? But talking about the product and selling the product live online, right? And telling about them, okay, what's the difference to another product, etc. So let's say the same experience, what you would have then also in a physical store, right? And I think that, depending, of course, on the vertical, that is also a huge trend for next year.
But that's like the old teleshopping. Call 910.
Yeah, back to the
in a modern way, the modern reincarnation. Yeah. Brilliant.
Back to the roots, right?
it tends to always circle back, right? But that's a super interesting connection. I think we have another question from Kevin. Is there an online shop that you believe has done it right? Maybe a nice time to talk about one of your interesting case studies that you think is really one of the best in breed.
Yeah, I think so the one I love is a recent one we just launched. It's called Jimmy Brings, and it's based in Australia. So only Australian people can see it. They block out the rest of the world, unfortunately. But what they do is they are the Uber for alcohol. So they deliver alcohol within 30 minutes to your house, and it's cold. So they deliver it also cold. And then they have, so what they have is, sounds very simple, but it's extremely complex because they have a lot of dark stores, and they also get their stock from physical stores. But not only they have to know where is the right, the right amount, where is the stock, but also is the stock cold, right? Because the on the fridge can only hold X amount of beer. So if you need one more, then it needs to come from a different location. And that's a massive, as you can imagine, project to put together. There's something, an engine there which is regulating all the stock. There is e-commerce there, which is actually being done, part of it by BigCommerce. There is CMS going on. But there's also a lot of regulation going on. Alcohol is something that is highly regulated, and especially in Australia. So depending on where you are and even which location you are, what your age is, and all this kind of stuff, you can or cannot buy. And an example for that is cigarettes. Cigarettes can be bought in certain postal areas, but not in other postal areas. So it's highly, really personalized website based on what you need. And even I can block out my friends, so I can say, Barry, you're way too drunk, you cannot buy anymore. I can give a signal saying, okay, Barry is not allowed to order anymore on your app. So there's a lot of really, really cool stuff going on. And how they brought together very, very massive technology, like very strong and deep in-house built stock engines, together with the ease and speed of the SaaS world. I think that is really amazing. And how we as a data are in the middle, stitching all the data and orchestrating all that data and normalizing it all together. So that was a massive, cool project to be part of. And I love that kind of case studies. They couldn't have done it just on BigCommerce. They couldn't have done it just on any other platform. And I love how they build everything.
It's a great example of putting everything together. A very interesting case indeed, for sure. So thanks for telling us that story. It makes me think about like delivery, right? And a thing that's taking off now in Ireland is drone delivery, right? And how does added technology get added on top of that, right? Or layered on? For example, if the grocery store is delivering something like a pharmaceutical, like a paracetamol product, how can they verify age? How can they verify age for cigarettes or for alcohol? Digitally, right? How can the drone act as the check there, right?
But do you have the drones already? You have them already? Right. Oh my God.
We have them, but how do they ask you for your ID, I guess, right? Or how do they ask you specific questions? Maybe that's the next step. Yeah, it's a fun topic that we could talk about all day. I guess one last question I think we have time for. Is conversational commerce a trend that businesses should pay more attention to? And that one comes in from Alan. Who'd like to take that one?
We'll hand it to Michael because I did the other one.
Yeah, Michael, you're up.
Yeah. So I would say it depends maybe also on your customer profiles or ideal customer profile you're having, right? And so maybe for a B2B business in industrial or selling industrial products, like a WhatsApp chat where you can order things would not be used as much as where you can buy maybe a clothes or fashion or beauty products, where maybe a younger generation is the customer profile, and where these, let's say, chats are used in a more intense way. Overall, I think for some of the verticals out there, it makes totally sense. And also in terms of not only conversational commerce, but also in terms of customer service. So sometimes the barrier to send quickly WhatsApp or an SMS to somebody is much lower than waiting in a hotline and putting some numbers in, and after 10 minutes you don't get anybody on the phone, right? And so I would say it has to do, of course, on the vertical and who you are selling to, but overall it can make sense.
Yes, but to the right audience, I guess, is the answer to that question.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mikael. That's very interesting too. So I guess we can wrap up with that. I don't see any further questions in the chat. Thank you very much to everyone for joining live. This will always be also be available afterwards for anyone else who's joining later. Thank you for watching if you got to the end too. Thank you very much to our guests, Jamie and Mikael. Just to mention as well, as I introduced at the beginning, this is our first in a partner webinar series. We will also be announcing the next one very soon on our website, so you can keep an eye on storyblock.com and the events page there. You can also find information on our website about our ecosystem, of which Deity and BigCommerce are very much a part of, and you can learn more about them and connect to some of our case studies there too. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining, and we will see you on the next partner webinar.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for joining.
Bye.